On today's episode of Try DIY with Ebony, we're making a screwdriver holder from scrap wood. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Try DIY with Ebony. Today, I am going to show you how to make a screwdriver holder from scrap wood. So again, I have a bunch of scrap wood from old projects, and I've been trying to come up with different projects that can use this wood so it's not just sitting around. This is very simple and easy to make. As you can see, I have a lot of screwdrivers. I'm not sure why I have so many, but I might be addicted to buying them. And they're also those types of things that you just don't throw away because they're practical to have. So I made this one quite a while ago. As I'm taking them out to show you that there are different size holes on here. That will be part of what I show you today, show you how to make today. The first thing I want to do is talk about a few of the different types of wood that I have, my scrap pieces. This piece is particle board, and basically it is chopped up wood pasted together. This is something that you might want to use on shelves or something that you're not going to try to stain and doesn't require a lot of paint. You don't want to see the wood grain. You don't need to see the wood grain in what you're trying to make. It's a very sturdy piece of wood though. This is another scrap I had, and this is melamine, and basically it's the same particle board, but it's covered with a plastic coating, and you'll see these in cabinets and closet projects. This piece of wood is a common board white wood. This is the cheapest wood that you can buy for these kinds of projects that still have the grain showing. So you can still stain this. It would be very nice on any kind of appearance project. That's what they call this type of wood that you will see in your actual project. But what I want to show you is this beautiful pine. Like, you can see the difference in the grain and the type of wood. So if I were building something that I wanted to show this grain, I wanted to show that smoothness, this is the kind of wood I would buy, the pine wood. It's a premier pine, and of course it's more expensive. Lumber right now is out of control. I have a smaller, thinner piece of that same kind of pine. It's kind of crooked. Let's see, which one do I want to use? Let me use this piece. This is a nice piece of pine too. This is a 1-inch piece, and of course it's still 3/4 of an inch because I don't know why they do that, but sometimes I want to say, give me my 1/4 of an inch. Like, who are you to take my 1/4 of an inch? Okay, this project doesn't require a lot of tools or a lot of wood. Like I said, I'm using scrap wood. This is a spindle for a deck. So this was very cheap, maybe $1.87 for this piece of wood, and it's very sturdy. It's nicely cut. You can see the grain, so it will go well with my pine board. What I'm gonna do is measure 6 inches. My legs are gonna be 6 inches. So I'm using my T-square. To measure 6 inches. I'm gonna start here. And what I'm gonna show you is how to use this wonderful workbench that I talked about in my last video, in the video for the paper towel holder. I'm gonna show you why this is so cool. So I'm just turning the vice grips on it, nice and snug. One of the tools that I recommended in the basic tools video was a miter box that has a handsaw. So this is kind of serving as the same thing. So if you don't have this from Aldi yet, you can use your miter saw to do the same thing. So I have my piece marked, and I'm going to use my handsaw. This is nice and secure in here. I'm going to use my handsaw. The way that you use a handsaw, of course you want to keep your hands as far away as possible. But what I like to do is get those first teeth into the grooves. Just a very small cut. And a lot of times I'll just start at one point and push straight forward. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm staying along that line. Of course, I could be using my miter saw and I would have been done cutting all four. But since most of you right now don't have the power tools, I'm going to show you how easy it is to still build things. Don't let your lack of having these tools be something that holds you back from building. I started with some very basic tools in some of my projects, with my original projects, and they turned out awesome. So right now, as I'm getting closer to the end, I'm going to hold on to it. Nice cut. And all I'm going to do is sand this down, and then I'm going to do the same thing 3 more times. Y'all, it's like hot yoga in my garage. But what I did already was cut the 4 legs. I did go ahead and use my miter saw just to have them cut a little more even and to make it go faster, because all of that sawing in this hot garage wasn't pretty. So what we're going to do, I'm going to sand this down. Let me get my sand. Oh, here's a sanding block right here. Here's a sanding block. I'm going to just sand this down. Sand each of the ends of the legs. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to choose which side is my top and which is my bottom. I think I like this smoother side as my top. So on the bottom, I am going to, basically I'm just going to place where my legs are going to go. Just like that. So they're right in the corner. I can kind of tell exactly where they're going to be, just to see how it's going to look. That's why I'm setting it up like this now. But so now I'm going to just flip it over and do the same from the top, and just make sure they're in place where I want them. Make sure my top piece is on top, lining up the edges to the edges. Now this is the fun part. I'm going to turn this around because it has a little split on that side. So here we are. You want to make sure it's level. It's going to be sturdy. I am going to add some wood glue to each of these pieces before I screw them in. But before I screw them in the corners, I can basically tell where the center of the leg will be. So I'm just marking that on each corner. It's probably about a ½ inch inside the leg. What I'm doing right now, I have my 4 markings for where I'm going to pre-drill for my screws. I'm gonna do that now. I'm using 2.5-inch screws. So I'm gonna use my this is my 5/32 of an inch drill bit. So I'm just going to pre-drill the holes. All the way through. Again, this is so that your wood does not split when you're putting in the screws. So I pre-drilled all 4 corners. Ooh, that's hot. You don't want to touch a hot drill bit because it's hot. So now I'm going to use my wood glue. I'm just squeezing out a little bit from the top because mine is dried up. There are these annoying flies in this garage. I wish I had my electric swatter near us right now, but I do not, so they will just keep annoying me for now. And here is my 4th and final leg. That's a bit much. You don't want too much on there so that the excess comes out. Sit them there and let that dry. And press down, put a little pressure on it. And then just let that dry. So I've attached 2 of the legs already, so I'm going to show you what I just did. This actually is a 3-inch screw, so I will make sure to use my 2.5-inch screws for this. These are 2.5-inch screws. Okay, so as it goes in, mine aren't dry yet, so I would suggest that you let them dry. When you don't let them dry, the legs are going to spin as you are screwing them in. So what you can do for that is to hold the leg in place while also holding the top of the wood piece as you're screwing in. So you'll see what I'm saying here. So I'm holding both pieces. I'm holding the leg, I'm holding the top of the piece. If I don't, the leg could spin out of control, but I'm keeping it tight and that makes it more stable. It did turn just a little bit, but that's okay. And then the final leg, I'm gonna do the same thing. And then we'll get started on the top part. I'm holding it so it doesn't spin. I'm holding both pieces so it doesn't spin. There we go. So now I am going to design the top so that I can put different size screwdrivers in, because as you can tell, I have so many different sizes And they come in different diameters. I have the really teeny ones and some supersized ones, some even bigger than this. So this time I want it to be a little neater than it was before. So I'm going to create a pattern, just draw a few lines. Okay. This was just a random crisscross pattern. And now what I'm going to do is use my different drill bits. I'm going to use my different drill bits to create a bunch of different holes. So here's my largest drill bit I have, which is 1/2 an inch. So I'm gonna make a few of those holes first. I don't have too many screwdrivers that can fit that, but I am going to, along the back, have those as the larger ones. So I'm just pressing straight down. That's how you get the straightest hole. Maybe I'll do every other hole as a large hole. You want to take your time with that because it does sometimes have a kickback when you're using this thick wood and such a large drill bit. So as you can see, I have 2 holes. I'm going to do another one here for the large. So I'm going to use another size. This is the 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to go along this line again. Same thing. Don't worry, it's all right. Creating a pattern here. Next, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch. I have quite a few that would fit this, so I'm going to make a few of these holes. I'm actually going to go between the ones I just made. It's looking good. I'm going to add some smaller ones, some more smaller ones toward the front. Actually, let me get a little small one into here. See, this is how I ended up with such a mixed match of holes on my first one because I didn't stick to my pattern. But I think I like this. I think I like how this is coming along. So I'll add one more right here. Be careful not to drill into the leg, which I feel like I might have just done, but we'll see. Yeah, that's definitely the leg. So that will be an empty hole. So I think I'm gonna go back to my 3/8 of an inch because I do like that size. And I think quite a few of my screwdrivers will fit in this one. I'm gonna make some more of those sizes. Okay, so here we are. I can actually fit some more in here, but I'm going to just add some smaller holes for my mini ones. Just a few along the side. I am done. I am going to sand the top of this, and then I'm gonna decide. You don't have to worry too much about getting into the holes to sand because once you push your screwdriver through, it'll take out the remaining pieces of wood. Ooh, that's so nice. It's so nice and smooth. I think I love it. Look at the underside. You can go ahead and sand the underside because there will likely be some pieces like that. So go ahead and sand that underside. Ooh, this is so nice. And if you're really feeling creative, where these, where your screws are sticking up, what do I do with mine? Here it is. I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna screw these down below the level of the wood. See if I can do that. Nope. You can either use some wood putty or some plastic wood to cover up these holes if you don't want them to show through. But I kind of like it. It makes it look a little more industrial. And so I'm gonna leave mine there. You could also put like a button or some kind of ornament on it to cover it up if you want. Let me decide what color I want to paint mine. Whatever color you choose to paint it, you might want to prime it. You could stain this. This would be an awesome stain color. Maybe I will stain this. I don't have any rubber gloves, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my work gloves. You want to make sure that you protect your hands with this stain. I'm going to use one of my trusty screwdrivers to open up this can. What color is this? This is Minwax Wood Finish, penetrating wax, semi-transparent. We're gonna see how this looks on here. I normally like a darker wood stain, so we'll see how this looks. Okay. Most of them all come out pretty dark in the beginning. These are some staining pads that I got from Home Depot. And they come in handy when I'm doing this type of staining. And it's good that this is a small project. So I'm just gonna tilt some onto the sponge and just rub it across the grain. Ooh, that's so pretty. That is so pretty. Look at that. Look at that. I love it. You see what I'm saying about the pine wood? It's just a soft, smooth wood. And look at the grain coming through as the stain sets in. The stain is absorbing into the wood grains, and you can see that here. Yes, I love it. I'm gonna go over it one more time. Really should have a mask on for this. And the sponge allows you to wipe up the excess as you go along. So I'm doing the same thing on the sides. And the sponge, using the sponge absorbs so much that you really don't have to use a lot. That's why I like to buy these little pans of the stains. You don't need a lot for these projects. When I'm being lazy, I don't do the underside or the back or parts that you're not going to see. But I'm going to go ahead and do all the parts today because I'm not feeling lazy today. I'm hot, but not lazy. You want to go in just one direction because that helps with the finish of the stain. I mentioned before how wood glue doesn't stain, so you always want to wipe away your excess. You can kind of see how that is happening here, where it's not dark underneath because some of my glue had come out. I wasn't too worried about it because it was on the underside of the piece. So, but that's why you want to make sure that you're very careful and you wipe away the excess when you're using wood glue, and that you plan on staining. Because you can always prime it, you just can't stain it. Imagine this as a table or a cabinet. That thing is pretty. So I've gotten all my sides and all my legs. I'm gonna let this dry. Not sure how many coats I'm gonna do because I like this. I like just this one coat so far. So I'm gonna let it dry and then I'll decide if I'm gonna come back and do another coat. I'm loving it as is though, honestly. Take a look at that. I am loving that. Okay, so we let this dry. I'm gonna put a little bit into these holes, just because you can still see the wood showing through the holes. So just gonna grab a corner and dip it on in there. Okay. Now let's let this dry. So now that the stain is dry, you can either add a polyurethane coat, or if the stain comes with is like a one step, you don't need to add a coat. I like this finish here, so I'm going to leave it alone. But what I did want to do, I was sitting and thinking while it was drying, what would make this even more unique? And as I said before, you could put the wood putty or the plastic wood to cover up these screws. But I think I'm going to use some E6000 and just add some pennies. It's very simple, but it's unique and different. So I'm going to use my E6000, which is another basic that you should definitely have in your toolbox because you can always use this. Some of the other things that I was thinking about to customize this, it would be cool if you put like chess pieces here on these edges. That would definitely make this unique. So I'm adding the E6000. One of my buddies, shout out to Mighty Mouse, she did a whole floor with pennies and then did the epoxy over it. I think it's pretty cool to do those kinds of projects. I always thought about that, but I don't think I have the patience. Okay, I'm just gonna let that dry on there. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm just going to start adding my screwdrivers. Okay, so we have the big ones. Let me see some of my bigger ones over here. So I have my big ones. I could put it in order of brand. What I like about these screwdrivers, these are Milwaukee screwdrivers that I bought as a set. It shows you on top what type of bottom it has. So if it's a Phillips or a flathead. I'll put all of these in a row so they will be all neat. Here's another one. Here are my smaller ones that I made the small holes for along the sides. This screwdriver is super old. I just know I've had it for quite some time. But in it goes. So you get the gist of it, and all your tools are organized and ready for your next DIY project. So thank you for joining me for another edition of Try DIY with Ebony.